Hello, everybody. I hope you are doing well. So today's lesson is about guest folio in hotels and restaurants. Okay, this is the first part, which has to do with the theoretical part. The title, as you can see, is guest folio in hotels and restaurants. So in this lesson or in this course, we will try to cover the definition of folio or guest folio. We're going to speak about the types of guest folio. We're going to see the characteristics of this folio. We are going to cover everything that is related to guest folio, whether in hotels or restaurants. Okay, what is guest folio? So this is kind of a definition or brief definition. Of course, you can have your further research about this because I think it's very important indeed. So, guest folio is considered as the master bill in the hotel, which is also known as guest account card. A guest folio contains all transactions of both cash and credit occurred by each resident guests. So, this kind of systematic procedure done by the institution or by the company or by the hotel, whenever the guest or guests in general come, they after they make a check-in in the hotel, their information are recorded appropriately in a certain manner, which the hotel keeps in case I don't know. Sometimes problems happen. Sometimes criminals try to book or make a reservation in hotel. So this is kind of evidence on the part of the hotels. But of course, normal guests, their information is there, and there is no problem. It's okay in general. How guest transactions are recorded on guest folio? In the folio, the posting is done consecutively in the order of transactions on a given date. The amount of money that is payable by the guest to hotel is recorded on the debit column, and the amount of money that is collected from the guest through setting his/her bills as well as advance deposits are recorded in credit column. So there is a column in the guest folio which is dedicated for the payment or for the finances. Okay, and this column, for example, it's like guarantee in a way. The guest comes, makes a check-in, and he pays a certain amount of money. That amount of money is recorded in that guest folio. Why? Because sometimes the guest comes and he wants to have troubles, or he wants to embezzle, and he wants to have troubles with the receptionist. So this guest folio is an evidence to show to the guest if or in case there are certain problems. How is guest folio maintained? In a manual system, folios are maintained manually and kept in the folio rack at the front office cache. In computerized system, the folios are kept in the computer and only printed out at the time of a guest checkout. So there are two ways to make a guest folio. There is the manual and there is the systematic or the computerized one. The manual system is as you have clearly seen. It's done for in the front office cache. For the computerized system or the systematic, which is kept in the computer, it's in the system in the hotel. So whenever the guest makes a checkout, then it becomes worthless if there is no problem. The balance column of the guest folio shows a progressive balance between debit and credit column, which is determined by subtracing the credit amount from the debit amount. It also includes previous balance. So, in general, the guest folio, it has to do with the finances. It has to do also with the credit and cash the guest pays when he or she gets into or makes check-in into certain hotel. Information needed to create guest folio. Guest name, room number, date of arrival and departure, room rate, guest address, billing instructions to the cashier. These are the elements or the pieces of information are included to create or to make a guest folio. Okay, for getting this credit facility, a guest has to provide proof of his credit worthiness by showing credit card, credit deposit, MCO, etc. Before offering a line of credit to a guest, there are two checks are required. One by reservation agent who receives a booking and the other by the receptionist who registers a guest into the hotel. Okay, so sometimes some guests or people in general, they want to spend, for example, certain night, and especially sometimes there are some hackers, so they want to have as much or as much money as they can, whether legally or illegally, and this guest folio sometimes makes a space for criminals to play with. So to avoid all these problems, the guest folio has to do with two procedures. The first one, it has to do with the credit or the reservation agent who receives a booking, and the second by the receptionist who registers or and who gets the information of the guest into the hotel. How guest folio is maintained for auditing process. For auditing, the folios need to be maintained chronologically. Each folio contains a serial reference number for maintaining the chronological order. Till the guest departs from the hotel, the cashier is in charge for the guest folio. So here it has to do also with the finances, and the way that amount of money participates first in the finances of the hotel, and second, second, to avoid, as I said, problems with some particular types of guests. If there is any doubt, both staff can refer the issue to the lobby manager or front office manager who makes final decision. The receptionist of any is generally fully responsible for reconciling the guest's bills. The hotel sets a house credit limit in order to discourage the guest to overspend. So here it's all about the responsibility of the receptionist to reconcile the guest's bills and the finances we have just spoken about. So in case there is a problem, the office manager is also or has also a word to say in this and to make a decision. If the guest's bill reaches or exceeds the house credit limit, then the guest must clear up his or her bills. If the guest fails to pay, the hotel has the authority to seal the room for guest entry. So here sometimes, as I said, problems happen, and if the guest is unable to pay, so the authority is given to the hotel to seal the room for the guest entry. The house credit limits are supervised closely by the front office cashier and later the night auditor who produces a daily statement of house guests exceeding the house credit limit. So here, one of the responsibilities of the guest, or sorry, The night auditor, which we have seen in the previous course, night auditor, as I said, has certain responsibilities for the night shift taking place or starting maximum from midnight until 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. It depends on it depends, varying from one hotel to another. Guests bill settlement options. We have some options. We have some choices. Number one, cash payments, in which a guest receive a cash voucher from the cashier as an evidence of such payments. So the payments should be given by the cashier as an evidence, as a proof that X guest has paid the amount he or she should pay. Two, guests sign their bills to be recovered by the city ledger by a pre-arrangement with their organization. Sometimes some guests work in a very big companies or very famous companies. So if the guest cannot solve his problem or her problem with the hotel, so then it is the outside organization which is responsible for helping the guest get out of this trouble. 3. Paid bills through an acceptable credit card. For the guest folio, if the guest has problem with the guest folio and he or she cannot handle the situation, and he or she has the credit card, so this also helps solve the situation. 4. Debit cards. 5. Guests sign their bills to be adjusted against advances and deposits. 6. And finally, traveler's check, which is considered as the check in the hotel. So these are some alternatives for the guests to avoid problems. Procedures for setting guest folio. The guest can settle his or her folio from any outlet of the hotel. Guest wants to sign the bill in guest folio at any of the post. Cashier will ask the guest for his or her room number. So the guest, after he makes the guest folio, he just asks the receptionist for the room number and he or she gets in. After verifying the room number, the cashier will then make a charge voucher like the restaurant voucher in where the guest will sign, and then the voucher will be forwarded to front office cashier to post the amount into the guest folio. So this is as simple as that. If a guest wishes to buy anything from the hotel shopping arcades, the guests are required to settle their bill or accounts directly with them, as the shopping arcades are leased by the hotel. Sometimes certain hotels, they have some products for sale. So when the guest makes guest folio, he should first pay what he has already consumed, and then he or she can have she can purchase the products he desires or she desires in that hotel. Some hotels also provide arrangements to shopping arcades to sign the guest bill. After providing the authentic documentation of the guest bill, the hotel will repay the amount of the shop owner. So if the guest has no problem with that, or if the guest has already included the charges of shopping in his guest folio, then the hotel is going to be charged with that. Some key points about guest folio. Right after successful guest registration, a guest folio is created automatically in hotel's computerized property management system or manually. So as I mentioned before, there are two ways, either manually or systematically registering guests folio in the hotel archives. 2. Every guest folio is opened with zero outstanding balance in hotel. 3. All kinds of information related to guest expenditure or loss made by guest has been recorded to handle future legal actions from any party. 4. Generally, guest folios are presented and paid in check or out period. 5. Strict advanced payment procedures need to be taken for special guests like walk-in guests, scanty baggage, etc. 6. And finally, for long-term guests, it is advisable to accept payment for few days and bill them weekly and try to collect payment and update the folio on a weekly basis. So these to avoid all the problems, these guest folios should be updated on a weekly basis. In this way, no problems will happen, neither with the guests nor with the hotel staff themselves. I think this is the end for this part of the lesson. Now we move to the part of the exercises.
Hi, I have a reservation for tonight, and I just want to check in.
Sure, what's your name?
Mike Adams.
Okay, let me check here. Here's your key to open your door. You're in room 360. Just walk down the hall. You'll see the elevators on your right.
Okay, and what time is the restaurant open for breakfast?
It serves breakfast from 6:30 to 10 a.m.
Oh, okay. And where's the exercise room? I'd like to, run a couple of miles before going to bed tonight.
It's on the second floor and it's open till 10 tonight, but the treadmill isn't working.
Oh, well. And one final question. Do you have wireless internet in the rooms?
We do, for $7.95 a night.
I thought something like that would be free.
No, sorry, sir. But you can get free wireless access if you sit in the parking lot on the north side. We do. You see, the hotel next to us has wireless and...
Well, great. Something like that would be free. Forget that.
Sorry, sir.
And every room has a refrigerator, right?
Well, we can have them put in your room for an additional $10 a night.
I thought something like that would be included in the price of the room.
Sorry, sir.
Well, it kind of irks me when hotels nickel and dime their customers like this. I mean, I check with several...
Really should have checked this with too, shouldn't you?
Well, it kind of irks me when hotels nickel and dime their customers like this.
I mean, all the other hotels provide these amenities for free.
Sorry, sir. It's just the way it is at this hotel.
And the bed, is that extra too?
Of course.
I've had it. I'll just try the hotel across the street. I'm sure they'll give me better service.
Okay, but you'll be canceling your reservation here, so we'll have to charge you a cancellation fee of 50% of the cost of the room.
Oh, forget it. I can't win either way. What's my room again?
360. Okay, but you'll be canceling your reservation here, so we'll have to charge you a cancellation fee of 50% of the cost of the room.
Oh, forget it. I can't win either way. What's my room again?
360.
Try to listen carefully, please, to the record and choose the correct answer for each, the correct option for each answer. There are 5 questions. 1 says, where is the men's room in the hotel? 2, what time is breakfast served in the morning? 3, where can the man get a free wireless internet connection? 4, what is the cost for a refrigerator in the men's room? 5, and finally, at the end of the conversation, the man decides to. written is divided into two parts. One task, or the first task, says paraphrase the course in a very coherent paragraph. You are going to rewrite the course into your in your style. Two, suppose you want to make a reservation in a hotel. What are the facilities would you like to include in the folio? So try to imagine that you want to create a guest folio in the hotel. So how are you going to make that? And so try to function or try to make use of what you have seen in the course. I wish you the best of luck.